Hi, everyone. This is Lowell, and just another thought about musicians that I admire. And this one is about Phillip Glass. And I have to admit that I can't listen to too much of Phillip Glass's music, but uh, his life and what he achieved and what he produced uh, is admirable. And he basically broke the mold of merging several various art forms. One was classical music discipline, but also he merged Indian elements, raga, and ethnically uh, Indian uh, elements into his music, as well as rock, some popular and contemporary rock elements. And honestly, he was the precursor to what we understand now as looping with digital audio workstations with sequencing. He was doing basically EDM, electronic dance music ideas well before, decades before they were actually came into vogue and with computers. And so what he became well known for was the term minimalism, and essentially was just pattern-based repetition, which at first glance, at first listen, it sounds like kind of a compromise to real classical composition, but Philip Glass really meant, every repetition that he created, and what ends up happening in a meditative way with music not being linear per se, but more static or meditative. What would happen is that it would evolve a little bit over time, and so in that sense, it was linear. But he really was true and honest with what he was wanting. He traveled. First of all, he studied with Nadia Boulanger, which is the greatest teacher of classical history and classical understandings of composition. And I've done a video about Nadia Boulanger and my respect for her. But Philip Glass studied with her, and then he subsequently toured India and studied with Ravi Shankar and all the Indian influences. And then he came back to New York City and really had a desire to amplify in street performances essentially classical music things in a way that rock music is produced. And so he successfully merged all these different elements together into one style, and it was something that most people were either afraid to do or hadn't really conceived of that kind of a mix. And so I applaud Philip Glass for his authenticity, for his willingness to courageously move forward in an area that most people either were afraid to, like I said a minute ago, or couldn't conceive of. But he was willing to move forward into these areas boldly, and really not knowing whether an audience would be accepting of these ideas, but he did it very, very strongly. One of the things that I admire about him in his own book that he wrote, a memoir of his own progress as a composer, was that when he first started, he really didn't have any ideas, he admits, and he blocked out a time, I think it was from 11 to 2, where he would sit down every day at his piano, at his desk, and would write and create at that time. And he said he gave himself a definite cutoff time so that he would, quote, tame the muse. In other words, he wouldn't allow himself to just be creating all day long, but he wanted to have self-discipline. And he admits that when he first started this process, that he just stared at the page for hours. Just, I don't have anything to do. I don't have anything to write. But he made himself just go to the desk every day and physically make himself accountable to himself, that this is the time that I'm going to create. And that's what literally gave him the success, was being diligent with that habit, that life habit. And I admire that about him as well.